You know that saying, money doesn't grow on trees? We all hear it.
Yeah, constantly.
But what if, like,
Yeah.
thinking that way is actually part of the problem? Welcome to the deep dive. This is for you, the learner, someone who wants to get smart fast.
And today, we're really digging into Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, some core ideas from it.
Yeah, it's built around this contrast, right?
Yep.
Two dads, totally different money philosophies.
Exactly. We've got some excerpts here that really lay out the basic differences in how wealthier people, or at least how we argue wealthier people, approach money. It's about the fundamentals.
Right. So our mission here is to pull out those key insights, give you a kind of shortcut to understanding some financial ideas that could, really change things.
Okay.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The book starts with this core idea.
Mm-hmm.
Two dads, completely opposing views on money.
And what's striking, like right off the bat, is how different their advice was. One was all about play it safe, avoid risk. The other was like, no, you have to learn to manage risk. That's crucial for getting ahead financially.
And it wasn't just talk, right? It showed up in big things like, is your house an asset or is it a liability?
Huge difference there. One dad, your house is your biggest investment. Total asset.
The standard advice.
Yeah. The other dad, he saw it as something that just takes money out of your pocket. So, a liability.
Wow. Okay. And even like paying bills.
Totally different approaches. One thought, pay them immediately, get it done.
So it feels responsible.
Right. The other believed, pay yourself first, then worry about the bills.
Interesting. So connecting that to the bigger picture, one dad was about security, like company job, government reliance.
Yeah, exactly. Climb the ladder, get the pension, that whole thing. The other dad really pushed for self-reliance, taking control of your own financial destiny.
And the author says that this constant back and forth between these views, it actually forced him to think for himself about money, not just, except one way.
Which really brings up a key point the book makes. Where do we actually learn this stuff?
Right.
Because it argues pretty strongly that our main money education happens at home, for better or worse, not in school.
Yeah.
And that kind of explains why so many people feel, a bit lost with finances.
So, okay, this isn't just theory. The book uses these early stories, like the toothpaste tube business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one. It shows their early drive, wanting to make money.
They saw an opportunity, grabbing old toothpaste tubes.
Resourceful, you got to give them that. Though the author's mom wasn't too thrilled about the growing pile of tubes.
Understandably. And this kind of leads to meeting Mike's dad, the rich dad. The author's own dad mentions their banker is super impressed with Mike's dad's money skills, which surprises young Mike.
Yeah, because Mike's thinking, wait, my dad's good with money, but we don't have the, the fancy car, the huge house like the other kids.
Right, and that's a huge point the rich dad makes.
Exactly.
Looking rich doesn't mean you are rich or that you actually understand how to build wealth. It's about what's underneath.
Mm-hmm. The financial understanding.
And that kind of sets the stage for the boys actually going to work for this rich dad to learn directly.
Which brings us to that job at the convenience store, Mrs. Martin's place.
Oh, yeah. Dusting cans for hours. Sounds thrilling.
Especially for 9-year-olds. 3 hours of that. Ugh.
Yeah, seriously mind-numbing. And after, 3 weeks, they get paid 10 cents an hour total?
Oh, anything.
So the author gets frustrated, right? He's thinking, where are the lessons I was promised? And he actually confronts the rich dad.
Right.
Which takes guts at that age.
It does. And the rich dad's reaction is interesting. He's calm. Asks him, how do you know I haven't taught you anything?
Right. And this is where it gets really good.
Mm-hmm.
Rich Dad explains he was doing it on purpose, like letting life knock them around a bit, a real life course.
The low pay wasn't about being cheap. It was part of the lesson itself.
Yeah. So the author pushes, okay, what is the lesson? And Rich Dad kind of jokes, maybe the lesson is that he's exploiting them.
Yeah.
But then he drops the real lesson, the first big one. The poor and middle class work for money. The rich, they have money work for them.
Boom. That's a fundamental shift.
Totally. And the author realizes, wow, this is the exact opposite of what his poor dad, his educated dad always said, study hard, get good grades, get a high-paying job.
And that contrast is key because the poor dad, even with a good education and decent income, still had money problems.
Yeah.
Why? Because he lacked that financial literacy. Understanding how money really works, earning more didn't fix the underlying issue.
So just knowing how to earn isn't enough. You need to know how to manage it, keep it, make it grow.
Exactly. Financial literacy.
Okay, so after that big reveal, Rich Dad hits him with another shocker. Now you work for free. No pay at all.
Imagine hearing that as a kid. Like, what?
Right. But this no pay thing, it was designed to teach them about fear and greed.
The emotions driving money decisions.
Yeah. Rich Dad explains these two feelings are what keep people stuck in the rat race.
That cycle he talks about.
Exactly. Work hard, earn money, spend more because you either want more stuff or you're afraid of not having enough. Then you got to work harder again.
And just getting more money doesn't actually solve the underlying fear or desire, right?
That's his point. Even rich people can be trapped by it. He even says sometimes the fear of losing money is worse for them than the fear of being poor was.
That's insightful. And he also questions the whole idea of job security. Is it really secure?
He says you need to choose your thoughts consciously, not just react based on fear or greed, like the Brer Rabbit story he mentions, the briar patch. Sometimes you have to face the thing you fear.
Okay, so working for free, that eventually leads them to their next idea, right? The comic book library.
Yeah, they figure out how to get old comics from a distributor for free as long as they promise not to sell them.
Clever workaround again.
Totally. So they start a library in Mike's basement, charge kids a small admission fee. They even hire Mike's sister to run it.
Huh?
Paying her, presumably.
Yeah, they were making money from the comics, not for the work, exactly. They were building a little system.
Until some bully shut it down, unfortunately.
Right, a dose of reality. But Rich Dad saw the value even in that failure. They learned about business, the good and the bad.
And the main takeaway was they were finding ways to make money work for them, not just trading time for dollars. That experience was powerful.
Yeah, that comic book library really hammered home that point about making money work for you. Which leads us nicely into another big theme, financial literacy versus just, school smarts.
Right. He uses that great analogy, building the Empire State Building needs a much deeper foundation than, say, a suburban house.
Mm-hmm.
To build serious wealth, you need that strong financial foundation. And schools, they often just don't teach it.
Which brings us to maybe the most famous concept from the book, assets versus liabilities.
Yeah, and he points out the dictionary definitions aren't always that helpful practically.
No, they can be confusing. But Rich Dad's definition is super simple, all about cash flow. What is it again?
An asset puts money in my pocket. A liability takes money out of my pocket. Simple as that.
It's about the direction the money flows, not just what the thing is.
Exactly. And he stresses you got to understand the numbers. Read your financials, see what they're telling you.
So the core idea then is the rich focus on buying assets, things that generate income.
While the poor and middle class,
Yeah.
they tend to acquire liabilities, sometimes thinking they're assets, like the house example.
Right. And the book says money just, magnifies whatever your habits already are. If you spend everything, more money just means more spending.
It's not just about earning it. It's what you do with it after you get it. That's what he calls financial aptitude.
Managing it, protecting it, making it grow. So many people struggle because they lack that, not because they don't earn enough.
Yeah. And this idea connects to something else he mentions, that Japanese concept of three powers: the sword, the jewel,
Which represents money.
and the mirror, representing self-knowledge.
And he argues self-knowledge is the most important one.
Because you need to understand how money affects people,
Yeah.
how it can control you if you let it. The trap of just working harder without thinking. And fear plays a big part.
Fear of being different, especially.
Yeah. Fear of what the neighbors think, fear of going against the grain. That's why people just accept things like your home is an asset without really questioning it.
So you need that mirror, that self-reflection, trusting your own gut, kind of.
Which leads perfectly into lesson 3, mind your own business.
Which doesn't mean be rude.
No. It means focus on building your asset column. That's your real business. He uses the Ray Kroc story.
Oh, yeah, the McDonald's guy.
Most people think McDonald's is burgers, right?
Sure. Fast food.
But Kroc knew his real business was the real estate under the McDonald's franchises.
Owning the asset that generated the income. That's brilliant.
That's the point. Most people spend their lives working for other people's businesses. Their employer, the government via taxes, the bank via mortgages.
Our education system mostly trains us for that, right? To be good employees. Focus on the income column from a job.
And that conservative mindset I can't afford risk, often comes from not having that asset base. Your job is everything.
Mm-hmm. Your whole financial world depends on it.
And the book even questions net worth, because if you sell assets, you often pay taxes, so it's not really what you have readily available. The key is, rich people buy assets. Poor people just have expenses. Middle class buy liabilities they think are assets.
So the advice is pretty blunt then.
Yeah, keep your day job, pay the bills, but start building that asset column. Seriously, buy things that put money in your pocket.
Like hiring little money employees that work 24/7.
Exactly, and the wealthy. They buy the luxuries last, with the money their assets generate, not by going into debt or using their salary.
Okay, that makes sense. What about taxes and corporations? That sounds complicated.
Well, he gives a bit of history.
Right.
Taxes were meant for the rich initially, but you know how it goes.
They ended up hitting everyone, especially the middle class, because governments always need more revenue.
Right. And the rich, understanding the system, use financial knowledge and things like corporations for, well, protection and efficiency.
So corporation isn't like a big building.
No, not necessarily. It's a legal structure, like a file folder, he says. It can offer advantages.
Like paying some expenses before taxes, which employees can't usually do.
Exactly. And it can offer some protection from lawsuits, too, keeping personal assets separate. The main point is, learn about these structures to protect what you build.
Got it. Okay, lesson 5. The rich invent money. What does that mean? Sounds dodgy.
No, it's not counterfeiting. It's about financial creativity, boldness. He uses the Alexander Graham Bell story.
Western Union turning down the telephone patent?
Yeah, for like $100,000.
Mm.
They didn't see the opportunity.
Wow. Missed that one.
It shows it's not just about being smart in the traditional sense. It's about courage, seeing possibilities, acting on them. Developing your financial IQ gives you more options.
And the cash flow game he created ties into this.
Yeah, it's meant to be a tool to teach you how money works, how to build assets and cash flow in a, safe space. Learn by doing. Make mistakes on the board, not in real life.
Financial intelligence equals more options, turning problems into opportunities.
And he makes this kind of deep point. Money isn't actually real. It's just what we all agree it is.
Okay.
So your mind is your greatest asset. Trained properly, it can create wealth. Like the example he gives of finding a cheat house, structuring a deal with borrowed money. Basically creating a profitable asset out of thin air through knowledge and negotiation.
Inventing money through a smart deal. Okay, I see.
So how do you actually start? That's the big question.
Yeah, the practical steps.
He says there's gold everywhere. Opportunities are all around, but you need the financial intelligence to see them.
Train your eye.
Right. And a powerful motivator. Figure out your don't wants, what you absolutely want to avoid. That can fuel your drive for the wants.
Makes sense. Use the negative push.
And fundamentally, it's a choice. You choose every day with your decisions, whether you're moving towards being rich or not.
So first investment, your brain. Education.
Absolutely. Books, seminars, learning from people who've actually done it. Don't listen to the chicken littles, he calls them.
The negative, fearful people.
Yeah. Seek out advice from people you want to emulate. And master one strategy, then learn another. Learn fast.
Pay yourself first discipline again. Understand your cash flow.
Be smart about brokers. Find ones who are on your side. Be an Indian giver. Try to get your investment money back quickly while keeping the asset.
Maximize return, minimize risk.
Use asset income for luxuries, not debt. Find heroes who make it look easy. That's inspiring.
And teach others. He says you learn more when you teach.
Yeah. And finally, just do stuff. Take action. Look for deals, make offers, walk neighborhoods, find bios. He gives that example of funding college by using real estate smarts.
Putting it all into practice.
Then he breaks down the 3 kinds of income. This is important.
Okay. What are they?
Earned income from your job, portfolio income, stocks, bonds, that kind of thing, and passive income, real estate rentals, royalties.
Got it. Earned, portfolio, passive.
And the rich focus on turning earned income into passive and portfolio income.
Yeah.
That's the game plan. Understanding that difference is critical.
Right. Moving money from the job column to the asset column's output.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, he talks about finding your path, which is deeper than just your job or profession.
Your purpose.
Kind of. School trains you for a job, puts you in the E employee or S self-employed quadrant usually. It doesn't really help you find your true calling.
You got to trust your gut, your heart on that one.
Yeah. Traditional education has limits there. He tells that sad story about a classmate stuck in a job he hated.
A cautionary tale.
And the Rich Dad Company, the game, It's all about giving people tools to move towards the B, business owner and IFI investor, quadrants. More freedom there.
Building businesses, becoming investors. That was the rich dad's advice. Like building a pipeline for water instead of hauling buckets back and forth.
Great analogy. Sustainable systems, passive income.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up. Key takeaways for you, the learner. What stands out?
Well, first, definitely that asset versus liability thing. Knowing the difference, focusing on assets that generate cash flow, that's huge.
Absolutely crucial. Second, I'd say the need for ongoing financial education. Just earning isn't enough. You got to understand money.
Right. Learn how it works, make it work for you.
Which is the third point, really, that mindset shift. Make money work for you, don't just work for money. That's the foundation.
So a question for you listening. What's one thing you own right now that, by Rich Dad's definition, is a liability? Could you think about turning it into an asset or maybe just getting rid of it?
Good question. And maybe what's one small thing, just one step you can actually do this week to boost your financial literacy? Read an article, watch a video, start tracking something.
Yeah, we definitely encourage you to explore these ideas more, maybe check out the book itself or find other resources that click with you.
Because at the end of the day, taking control starts with learning and having the courage to maybe think a little differently about money.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.